You're listening to Journey for Truth with internationally known medium, Tai Yi practitioner, and radio host Tami Urbanek.
Hello and welcome to Journey for Truth on iHeartRadio and YouTube. I'm Tami Urbanek. Thank you so much for joining me. Journey for Truth Radio is always on demand and with many new episodes. If you go to my website, empowermentthroughhealing.org, you'll see a life energy flow Tai Yi treatment titled Dirty Brain. This treatment is in 2 parts, and it's for people who have been suffering from leaky gut. The leaky gut is almost an epidemic at this point. Many doctors are talking about it. But after a person has made dietary changes, this treatment is really going to assist in adding energy to that healing, energy to the gut, to really begin seeing an even deeper relief in symptoms. Also, on JonahLifeInstitute.com, there is a new Jonah message titled Toxic. This talks about our toxic air, water, food, and also toxic relationships, and how to really move beyond that and create a very healing environment for yourself. Again, it's titled Toxic on JonahLifeInstitute.com. My guest this week is Hyapatia Lee. Hyapatia suffered sexual abuse as a child, leading to mental and emotional trauma. This also led her to perform in X-rated movies. She even earned Actress of the Year in 1990. She eventually found some relief in her symptoms, and she found that through her own methods. Hyapatia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, dear.
Now, talk to us first about the sexual abuse that occurred.
Well, I was born to a young mother and father, so my grandmother raised me until I was 9 years old. At that time, my mother married. She never really had a relationship with my father. She married a man, and I started to live with her. I'd been raised by my grandmother previously, and this guy started to sexually abuse me. Like I say, she married him when I was 9. By the time I was 14, I ran away from home. At that point in time, we were in Florida. My grandmother was in Indiana. So I had to find a way from Florida to Indiana. I got back there, excelled in high school. I buried myself in my studies and in the theater. I graduated in 3 years, and I moved next to a theater that I was doing a lot of work at. I was not only doing theater on stage, but also working in the box office. And about a month after I moved in there, I woke up with a man with a pair of scissors at my throat who raped me.
Wow.
So that brought everything back that I had tried so hard to bury,
Exactly.
and I had to deal with it.
So when you were a child, so you were sexually abused for 5 years, did you say something to your mother?
Yes, I did, and she wanted to know why I wanted to take her husband away from her.
You know, I hear about that so much, and it just boggles my mind. I just don't understand. I guess I do. I mean, I understand the fear they're coming from. I understand what they're going through to lead themselves to believe that type of conclusion. But as a mother, I have difficulty in understanding, you know, even questioning that. So my heart goes out to you. That must have been so difficult. So I'm assuming then that your grandmother received you with open arms and you were able to move forward, but then you experienced another trauma.
Exactly.
How did that lead you to performing in X-rated movies? What was that sequence of events?
Well, it wasn't very logical because I wasn't thinking very logical at the time, to be honest with you. I loved performing, and I had been in 72 different plays and musicals in my life by the time I graduated from high school, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I realized I wasn't emotionally strong enough to go to New York City and try to pursue that career, even though I did for a few weeks, stayed with a friend there, realized I wasn't going to be able to do this. Came back to Indiana. I was staying in a halfway house for people with mental issues. I tried the mental system, the mental health care system as it is today, for years and years and years. There pharmaceutical drugs, their talk therapy, gestalt therapy, all kinds of things. I gave it a real good try. And I decided that if I was going to, I had to find a way to survive. I had to, make a living. I wanted to pursue my career in the theater. That obviously wasn't going to happen the way I had seen it play out in my childhood.
Right.
I realized that I would have a lot of control if I had a friend who was in theater with me who was a dancer. And so I went to see her dance a few times. I realized I had control as a dancer. I had my own dance studio at 16. I majored in ballet at Butler University in Indianapolis while I was still in high school because I was so into this. So I figured, okay, I got to pay for these dance lessons somehow, you know. So I figured I could dance. There came a contest, the Miss Nude Galaxy contest, and if I won that contest, as my girlfriend had, I realized I would make more money as a dancer. So all of my friends from the club were going up 2.5 hours away to this nudist camp for this contest. And I went with them, and I won. So there were some people at the contest that asked me if I'd ever consider posing for men's magazines. And they were there taking pictures of the contest, so in a way I was already doing that, you know. So I posed for a few things. I went back the year afterwards to give away the crown, and then the following year after that I entered it again. And won it again. I was the only 2-time winner. And that's when they asked me if I'd like to make adult movies. I was married at the time. And I said, okay, can I work with my husband? And they were agreeable to that. So the first 2 or 3 years, I only worked with my husband. And then things opened up. By making adult movies, I found I was able to make a tremendous amount of money dancing on the road, promoting my movies, selling my photographs with guys, Polaroids with me standing next to them and stuff, sell my movies on the road, that kind of thing. Traveling is what enabled me to study with different medicine men and women across this country, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Guam, Hawaii, that kind of thing. So I was able to spend my spare time when I wasn't working learning with these people, and I booked myself in specific areas so I could study with these people.
Right. Now, when you were working, well, first question, is an X-rated movie the same thing as porn?
Well, yes, it is. But what you see today is not what we did back then. In 1986, I did a X-rated version of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, which is almost a $500,000 production. We rented costumes from Universal Studios. Most of them were used in their production of Camelot. Today, what you see is a bunch of freak shows, a bunch of gonzo, strange sex acts, lots of three-ways, orgies, anal things, stuff
so it's
that
a lot
I really
different.
participate in.
Now,
yes,
now
exactly.
It's different.
Exactly.
So while you were doing this movie making, though, with your husband for at least a few years, how did that continue shaping your self-worth as a female and as a person?
Well, there was a dichotomy. It was a double-edged sword. Society was telling me a horrible person. On the other hand, I was in the only profession where women were making more money than men. I was writing my own movies. I was singing my own title songs to the movies. I won Actress of the Year. I got the Free Speech Coalition Lifetime Achievement Award. I was going on all kinds of talk shows promoting the business and free speech as it falls under the light of the business. And when you're making something like The Ribald Tales of Canterbury, that's easy to defend. I mean, in all honesty, I had to cut out some of the scenes that Chaucer wrote in The Ribald Tales of Canterbury because I thought they were too raunchy. You know, I cleaned it up a bit. I don't do rape scenes. I don't like it to be involved with anything that has anything to do with rape scenes. I had cut that out. I cleaned it up for porn, if you will. So, back then it was easy to defend. Nowadays I'm not involved in the business and I don't really know exactly what's going on, so not so much. But my husband and I had a bumpy road. He had a real hard time with me being the major breadwinner. It really affected his self-esteem.
Did he have a harder time, you being the breadwinner than the acting in a X-rated movie?
Yes, he really did. He really did, because I only made, some years I didn't make any movies, 2 to 3 movies a year at best, whereas nowadays people will do dozens of movies in a month. It was quite different back then. I was under contract with specific companies to do movies only for them. These specific companies would only do 1 or 2 movies a year. If I was involved in every movie they did, I did 2 movies a year. You know, so it was different back then. Most of my time was spent on the road dancing. Therefore, what he had to be confronted with on a daily basis was me bringing home all of this money rather than me having sex with other people. That was on film, so people see that a lot. It's always going to be out there. But what was actually happening on a daily basis was me bringing home all this money from dancing and being the star, treated like that, you know.
Wow. So did this eventually break up the marriage?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it did.
Now, you were stating that, you tried every type of therapy you could think of. What eventually made you decide, okay, you need to look at Native American traditions to see if that's going to provide a healing benefit more so than therapy ever could?
I wanted children. I had had 3 miscarriages. The childhood sexual abuse I had left its physical scars, and I was having a difficult time healing from that physically. There was things that could not be changed, that could not be done physically. So I was seeing specialists and all that kind of stuff. In so doing, I'm sorry, my cat's meowing. In so doing, I decided to seek out a Native American health healing ceremony. And so I was able to find someone through years of search who could do this healing ceremony. It was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever been through. I wrote about it in my book, The Secret Lives of Hyapatia Lee. And this man accepted people who wanted to study the traditional path. And I, of course, was one of them. And after my son was born and I thought more about it, I thought, I've got to pursue this. So I went on medicine trips to Hawaii and studied with him in Arizona and in California before he moved to Arizona for years and years and years. I also went to the East Coast and studied herbal healing with Gladys Tantagwidian, whose brother, Harold, was the actual last chief of the Mohican tribe in Delaware.
So what did your process look like? And I mean your emotional healing process.
Okay, what I learned is there is an extensive, centuries-old intertribal tradition for maintaining mental health and integrity and balance. It was known all across North America, Canada, United States, Mexico. There were no boundaries back then, so it was known everywhere. This system teaches at its heart that we are responsible for mental health. Going to somebody else and saying, this is what happened to me, what do you think? It can help a lot of people, and I don't want to put it down because it does help a lot of people. But when you have had a series of events, misfortunate events, that keeps you coming back, there needs to be a way, there needs to be tools that one can use by themselves so they can heal themselves, so they don't have to keep going every week to somebody. And really, really, I found debilitating was the pharmaceuticals that they kept pouring in.
I agree.
The side effects were just tremendous. I'm so glad to be off of those.
I agree. I think the best type of teaching, the best type of coaching, whether it's through therapy or life coaching or something along those lines, is teaching someone how to take those tools and self-apply them so that they can go on their way and continue their journey of healing. Now, I think everyone needs a good teacher, one that you can access, one that you can ask questions to, because there's always going to be people who know more than us. That's just a way of life. But as a therapist, as a medium, as a coach, I always want to give people those tools that they can just continue working on their own. And if they need to come back for guidance, wonderful, I'll offer more guidance. But never this expectation of, well, I'm going to have to see you every week, we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do this for the next 16 years, and hope that you're better in 16 years.
Yeah, it's how to start a codependent relationship.
Exactly. What did you begin uncovering in your process of mental health? Well,
the first thing, the basics, and my book, Native Strength, The First Step on the Path to an Indomitable Life, which was released in August, starts with the basics. It's the first step. It's the first book in a series. And the first thing is called The Flowering story called The Flowering Tree, but basically boiled down, it's this. We each have inside us an adult man and woman, a little boy and a little girl, and elders, two wise elders. They're male and female, the adult men and the women, the elders, male and female, okay? To break it down even further, we have physical male and physical female, spiritual male and female, and spiritual female, elders, children, and adults. So you've got all these beings at your disposal who can guide you. Mm-hmm. They have specific duties. The elders are the ones we are most in contact with because they're the ones that guide us every day. That's who gets us to work. That's who feeds the children. That's who takes care of the house. That's the elder's job, our daily tonal existence. The children's job is to explore, to enjoy life, to see beauty. The Navajo call them the little gatherers of beauty. So when you see a beautiful sunset and you say, wow, that's really cool, that feeling you get, you're feeding your inner children. Now, if you don't feed your inner children enough, they're going to scream and cry and complain enough that your elders aren't going to be able to do the jobs they need to do to get things done every day. I'm sorry, your adults. My cat's distracted me. The elders are the key. They're the ones who can guide you. They see the past, the present, the future. They see all potentials, and they're the ones who can get in touch with the Great Spirit. Our adults are too busy with everything going on. The children can talk to the elders quite well, but the elders are the ones who talk with the Great Spirit. They operate on a higher vibration, just like Great Spirit does, whereas the children and the adults are busy on our daily existence. They live on this plane. So if we really want to get guidance from Great Spirit, from our Creator, we need to contact our elders and have the elders contact them. Now, in Hawaii, kahunas, they practice huna. Kahunas are the teachers of huna. They believe that there are three separate entities in ourselves as well. When they do their hands-on healing, what they do is talk to their children, who talk to the higher, they call them by different names, but they talk to the elders. The children talk to the elders talk to the Great Spirit. And the first thing they do, of course, is ask, is this healing supposed to transpire? Is this karma that this person is supposed to know? Or is this just an accident that they can actually be healed from? You know.
So when you were working through this process, is it that you were discovering your own abilities, your own true self-worth, your own true potential versus what you learned, the false information that you learned growing up?
Exactly. I learned how to shed the molding that we're given by our image builders and be the true self that I am through learning who the elders are in me and learning who I'm supposed to truly be by getting in touch with the elders. The elders are the ones that can give us unconditional love. That's how we show ourselves unconditional love, is by getting in touch with the elders. They're the parents that we always wish we had that can say, oh, honey, I know you made a mistake and I know you didn't mean to, and it's okay. It's going to be all right.
How did you know this was working for you?
I felt better. I felt happier. I was more productive. I was able to look forward to the future, look forward to another day. I felt good about myself. I didn't feel like a failure. I didn't feel like I needed these medications anymore.
Wow. Very, very important. And for any listeners who are suffering from depression, anxiety, I think most people want to feel better. They want to feel the way that you just described. And perhaps this is an avenue for them if they've tried other avenues of traditional therapy and it just hasn't been working. Something needs to change. And that's really the conclusion that sounds like that you came to, that you've tried these traditional methods, conventional methods, but it wasn't working, so something has to change in order for you to change how you feel about yourself.
I think what I realized is that modern conventional psychotherapy is at best 300 years old and was started by Freud, who was a cocaine addict. And this is something that has been around for centuries. It was intertribal. It was all over North America. We don't hear about it much for a variety of mostly government and red tape. You can only be a certain percentage of Native American. You have to be registered to be able to pass down certain information, etc. It's come to the point where, as a Native American, we have become our own worst enemy in police that our government started to keep us from doing things like the peyote ceremony and such. And so, and because of that, we have lost a lot of valuable information.
I didn't know there was that much red tape.
Not
wow.
lost. It's just very hard to find.
I understand that for sure. Now, where can people find your information?
Well, I have a blog, Hyapatia Lee, on WordPress.com, hyapatialee.wordpress.com. I have a page at Amazon. My book is available. Both my books are available on Amazon. So, author page at Amazon.com. I have a YouTube channel. Let me think, what else? Oh, I also write for High Times Magazine. A lot of the ceremonies, well, exercises, if you want to call them that, whatever terminology you're more comfortable with, can incorporate the use of cannabis. Because cannabis can silence the outside world, can calm ourselves down, help ourselves center, and focus on what's inside us, our own true feelings, our own inner self, turning everything else off and focusing on ourselves. Cannabis can help with that for some people. Some people get giddy and funny and they can't focus on it, and for them I would not recommend it. But I do write an article for High Times Magazine. It's an advice column, comes out every week on their Facebook page.
Excellent. And can you give the title of your 2 books?
Yes, the first one is called The Secret Lives of Hyapatia Lee, and it's an autobiography, and it outlines all of the things I went through in my life as a child. It's a no-holds-barred expose on the adult entertainment business as it existed at the time, and it was published in the year 2000. So it's not really about what's going on in the business today, but what was going on when I was involved in it. The book that I just released in August, which was featured in Huffington Post in October, is called Native Strength, on the Path to an Indomitable Life. And it's the first book in a series. And many excerpts from it can be found on my blog and my Author House page. There's some videos on the Author House page and videos on the YouTube page that are medicine stories from the book.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my show this week.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, dear.
And thank you, listeners, for joining me here as well on Journey for Truth on iHeartRadio and YouTube. Until next time, have a fantastic week.